Cali X Boxing 2.0. Like, sub, hit that alert. No Fanager Zone. Leave your Fanager talking points at the door. Boxing fans speaking to other boxing fans about how we can further our agenda as boxing fans. That's what we are here to do. It's our only agenda. It is Thursday. Tank versus Ryan Eve. Look forward to speaking more about that today, among other things. Let's rock and roll. Que bueno, mi gente, Cali X Boxing. As I said at the top, we're going to talk about some things today, Tank versus Ryan, among other things that are going on in the sport. A lot of interviews out there that have triggered me as a boxing fan, and particularly when I'm blamed for certain things that I have nothing to do with as a boxing fan. But shout out to the people in the building already. JC, appreciate you swinging through. Wheelchair Man John, what's up, my boxing brother? Espinoza is a clown. He will have to answer to Paramount eventually about the lack of ratings when it comes to boxing on Showtime because the numbers continue to decline. I do my part by watching the fights. And you are right. We are doing our part, and we shouldn't be blamed for certain things. Punchy in the building. Saludos. No excuses. No excuses. And I'm with you on that, Jesus, and we'll be talking about that. And I'll be talking about why we should not be looking at a rehydration clause as a concrete thing. We should not be looking at Ryan Garcia, Tank versus Ryan Garcia as a concrete thing. We should be looking at it as an opposed to thing. As an opposed to what? I don't like rehydration clauses. I don't like particularly catch weights because we have 17 weight classes in boxing, and that's more than enough. 18 if you ask the WBC because they got the Bridgerweight thing, named after the kid that got eaten by the dog. But there's enough weight classes to find a weight class to fight at, particularly when the weight classes are 5 pounds apart from each other. So there's no need to make an extra weight class by fighting at a catch weight. So that's how I feel about that. And I'm consistent in that. And I've called out my favorite fighters in doing that. But I never liked it. I never understood it. I understand it, but I never liked it. And I continue to not like it. But I'll give my explanation as to why we shouldn't be worried about it and why we should be looking at it a different way. Shout out my guy, Los Chingones Boxing. Love their content as well. And I'm learning my Espanol. And part of my Espanol is watching more Espanol channels. I've been trying to learn that as well, or Rosetta Stone and other things. So appreciate y'all's content. Tank only takes on rivals that for sure he will win. And that's true. We've gone over that as well, the whole Tank Davis theorem. We've been over that. But I'll show video clips today. Steven Espinoza, Eddie Hearn, and Ness again at the Boxing Voice. Ness has days where he doesn't have time. He just doesn't have time for the calls, and he's just not going to deal with them. And he just swerves into the truth. He just swerves into it, and it's beautiful when it happens. It's just beautiful when it happens, and I'll be highlighting another one of his clips. JC, everyone, shout out Nando in the building. Have you dropped your joke prediction? What's a joke prediction? JOT prediction. What is that? What's joke prediction? Do you think the spies in Ryan's camp will have an effect on the fight? I don't know if there are spies in Ryan's camp, to be honest. That could be just the Tank people saying he has moles in his camp. I don't know. We'll never know. We'll never know. I don't know. So, I mean, it could not, depending on if it's real or not. I'm not sure. But, we have other fights this weekend. And tomorrow I'll be live. Saturday I'll be live. Sunday I'll be live. It's going to be one of those. And when my kids are going to be with my mom this weekend for the most part, so I'll be able to do more of these videos. But I have a lot to talk about with this fight, and I'm going to be excited about this fight. In Saturday, I will be excited. But the thing is, I wanted to strictly talk about the fight this weekend. But you see, as more interviews come in during a fight week, and you see Steven Espinoza get access to a camera, and then Leonard Ellerbe the same thing, and you hear the stuff coming out of their mouth, the verbal vomit coming out of their mouth, you have to push back on it. You have to. And we'll have plenty of time to talk about the fight in the next couple of days, pre-fights, post-fights, and I love the fight. But there are other things we need to push back on as well. But I'll say this. Cordina versus Rakimov's a hell of a fight, flying under the radar, and it's going to be Saturday afternoon here in the States, which is beautiful. So we'll have a full day of boxing to concentrate on. And that's a hell of a fight, and it's a fight that could be for 130 supremacy and for a legitimate belt. And it's Cordina coming back, right? Because what's the issue with Cordina? Cordina gets hurt, then he comes back, and he gets a knockout that nobody expected him to get, wins the title, then gets injured again. Rakimov fights for his belt that he gets stripped from, and now he's trying to get it back. So it's a good story between two good fighters for 130 supremacy. Other fighters in the division, such as Oshake Foster, who just beat Ray Vargas. It's a shallow division, but you have two guys at the top of it right here who will be fighting on Saturday afternoon. And then Gabe versus Beck the Bully. It's another good narrative fight. It's Beck the Bully. They're rushing him through. 7th, 8th pro fight. It looks like he's going to run through Gabe Rosado, who is there to get run through. And then what happens? Gabe Rosado lands a shot that completely changes the trajectory of Beck the Bully's career, right? And I love to see, it's fascinating when you see things that aren't supposed to happen. So I love that fight as well. And I think Beck the Bully is going to come back with a vengeance in this fight. I think he's going to beat Gabe. And I'm glad Gabe got this fight, though. And I was critical of Gabe getting the Zurdo fight because Zurdo should have been fighting higher competition. And on top of that, we've seen Gabe in these fights already. So recycle somebody else. Give us somebody else. Give us another Gabe Rosado coming up, because there are Gabe Rosados in gyms all over the country who are waiting for their opportunity. So stop recycling Gabe Rosado. But the thing here is he lost out on the Zurdo shot. He had a full good training camp. He deserves another shot. And why not be in it against the guy he already beat? So if there's a fight he deserves, it's this one. It's this one. Hat prediction. I don't know what you mean by hat prediction. I don't know what that means. Hat prediction, JC. Let's see what else we got. Let's see what else we got. Beck the Bully versus Morrell would have been fire. Would have. You're right. That'd have been a nice fight. Joe Cordina by KO. Gabe Rosado's a true warrior that he is. Gabe only the sport because he has connections. Yeah, and he's earned it to a certain degree, but I want to get just straight off the top. Let's start getting into some of these clips because some of this stuff set me on fire. Before I get that, let me touch on the rehydration clause, because it's the big narrative, the big wild card is, will Ryan be at full strength with the rehydration clause? And here's how I look at it. People are looking at it like a concrete thing. And I've heard people say, well, he shouldn't have excuses, because if he's going to blame anybody, blame his manager for allowing him to fight 136 with a 10-pound rehydration clause. Blame the manager. When the manager probably, first of all, I got to give credit to Ryan for swallowing the poison pills. Right? And taking control of his career and saying, no, I want this fight. Whatever they demand, give into it. Try to push back, but give into it, and let's get the fight. I respect that from Ryan. But the 136 with the 10-pound rehydration clause, people are saying his management is stupid for going along with this. And, he should blame his management for this. I look at it a different way. I think Ryan and the management knew they had to swallow this poison pill in order to get the fight. So we shouldn't be looking at a concrete thing. We should be looking at it as opposed to what? What else was Ryan going to do other than fight 136, 10-pound rehydration clause against Tank? And let's measure it against what else he would have done. And is it a better deal, and is it easier than the other deals? I would suggest, I would offer up that Ryan fighting Tank at 136 with a 10-pound rehydration clause is still an easier fight for more money than fighting Josh Taylor at 140, than fighting Regis Prograis at 140, than fighting Matias at 140, possibly Teofimo at 140. Right? On top of that, if you look at 135, it's probably easier than fighting Devin Haney at 135 or Lomachenko at 135. Certainly Shakur Stevenson at 135. These two guys needed each other. They needed to step up. 17 years combined, and they've never been in a fight against elite level competition other than, you know, a Campbell and a Pedraza. But they've been missing that elite level fight in a big fight. So why not fight it against each other? Because both of these guys, if they're going to win a big fight, it's going to be against each other. The easiest fight out there against the top fighter for Tank is Ryan. The easiest fight out there for against a top fighter for Ryan is Tank. And that's even with a 136-pound fight, catchweight fight with a 10-pound rehydration clause. That's my opinion anyway. So we can say Ryan's not at his full strength. It's 80%. This is Ryan at 90%. But even Ryan at 80, 90% is probably going to give him a better opportunity to win a big fight against Tank at 80 to 90%, other than as opposed to fighting Josh Taylor being Ryan at 100%, fighting Regis Prograis at 100%, fighting Matias at 100%. It's still a winnable fight for him. And by the way, this is priced into the betting odds. So we now have Tank at a 2.5 to 1 favorite, which is close to toss-up territory. Those aren't wide odds, fellas. This wouldn't be a big upset. It just wouldn't. Teofimo was a bigger underdog against Lomachenko. He was 3.5 to 1. Bivol was a 5.5 to 1 underdog against Canelo. This wouldn't be a big upset. It just wouldn't. And it's priced into the odds already. It's already priced in. Did you listen to Espinoza on the Dan Rafael pot? 1, he's a prick. 2, sounds ultra confident. Spence Bud is going to be agreed to. I'll give you one better to show the smugness of this guy. I'm going to play a clip of him answering questions at the pressers. I'm sure he's making his rounds in Vegas, and you're right. Just a smug dude, just a smug guy. And Conor McGregor was right about him by calling him a weasel, because he just looks, acts, talks like a weasel. And he thinks he's so smart. And that's the saddest thing about this is there are people out there who think these guys, they hold them up on these high pedestals and they think they're doing a great job. And you see the mass exodus of American boxing fans. And why is that? And they'll blame it on other boxing fans. That's what Steven Espinoza is trying to offload the mistakes they've made on the boxing fans. It's him. He's the one doing it. He's the one doing it. So I'm going to play this clip, man. It is disgusting to me. Disgusting. And as far as Spence Bud, I'm just not going to talk about it. Like it's not going to talk. I'm sure it's agreed upon. I'm hearing from good people that it's agreed upon, and they're going to, I'm sure. But like I said, like, what are these guys going to do? What have they been doing? Bud just fought in December, and then Spence hasn't been doing anything. So where else do they have to go? What's he going to do? Fight Keith Thurman? Really? It's bitch made to make a rehydration. I agree with you. Shout out Boxing Historian 206. It is. I agree with you fully. All I'm saying is I'm agnostic to it in this case because, I don't know what impact it's going to have. And we'll never know. If he loses the fight, he may make an excuse as to why, but he agreed to it. So we got to go off of that. It's like Lomachenko blaming his shoulder for the Teofimo loss. It's like you still fought the fight. You still fought it. Pacquiao versus Mayweather. You had a shoulder injury, but you still fought the fight. That's all we have to go off of. So if you agree to 136 with the 10-pound rehydration clause, that's all we have to go off of. We don't know if you lose the fight, if that's why you lost the fight. We'll never know, but you agreed to it. But what I'm saying is on the Ryan side. People are calling Ryan stupid for agreeing to this, but what else is he going to do? Tank's team has shown it's a take it or leave it deal. It's a take it or leave it deal. We're hard to deal with. You're going to take whatever poison pill you feed us, or you're not getting the fight. Or we're going to go fight another 130-pounder at 135 and call it a title fight. They've shown they'll do that. Tank is agnostic to his career. He doesn't care. Tank has been on podcasts saying, I don't care. Like, they're asking him. They're asking him point blank, have you ever knocked on the door and asked Floyd and Al and Leonard for specific fights? And he's like, no, I don't. I think Tank is just strolling around with his green purse and his trucker hats and just, just sitting around enjoying his money. I don't think he cares about his legacy. I don't think he cares about if he fights Devin Haney or whoever they feed him, he's going to fight. He doesn't care. He doesn't care. I don't even think Tank's probably not even the one that asked for 136 with a 10-pound react. He's just sitting there. He's just sitting there. And Al and Steven are giving him the marching orders. We're giving Tank too much credit. He's just walking around with the green purse, just enjoying life. He's agnostic to where his career is going and where his career has been. He's agnostic to the legacy part of it. And there's a sad part to that, and we're gonna get into that. If Ryan wins, it'll be comparable to De La Hoya KOing a juiced up Fernando Vargas. Espinoza face when McGregor jumped on him. You weasel. Also, Espinoza upset the Zone, giving their subs a discount on the pay-per-view. Let me start there. This is, let me pull this up. This is going to be, let's see. This is how you handle like trolling right here. This is how you handle trolling. This is Leonard Ellerbe. I mean, not Leonard. This is Eddie Hearn being asked by Coogan Cassius about Leonard Ellerbe's comments. And Leonard Ellerbe's comments are basically trust fund Eddie doesn't have any stars. He doesn't sell pay-per-views, which is weird because he has the two biggest pay-per-view draws in the sport. And this is Eddie Hearn's reaction to Leonard Ellerbe, the disheveled, unshaven Leonard Ellerbe.
I do need to ask you about. I know, but I do need to ask you about Leonard Ellerbe's comments towards you yesterday.
Hold on one sec.
Watch this.
You could have just given me that. What the fuck are you doing? Eddie, what are you doing?
Just give me a minute, mate. I'm just trying to get out of Leonard Ellerbe's head. Listen, mate. I can't do it anymore. It started off to see a man crumble.
What are you doing there? Sorry. Well, I just wondered what you were doing there, but you've explained.
Yeah, no, I was just getting out of Leonard Ellerbe's head. I've been there for many years, and I can't find a way out. Listen, after seeing obviously when Tank left Leonard Ellerbe and Mayweather Promotions and stuff like that, I felt bad. And then when I saw him pop up at the presser like a competition winner with the new beard in the background, I'm still involved. Look, they've given me $5,000 to stand here. Look. And then I saw the beard and everything. I just thought to myself, I can't do it anymore. You've broken this man.
He broke him.
I'm not talking about Leonard. I love Leonard Ellerbe. I love his new beard. I think he looks absolutely fantastic.
Can I just make reference to a point he made, saying that you had no pay-per-view stars?
No pay-per-view stars. I mean, I don't know if you watched Anthony Joshua fight the other week, doing massive numbers worldwide. It's probably one of the biggest draws in the sport. He's welcome to come to Guadalajara to see 60,000 people watch Canelo Alvarez against John Ryder, which we're promoting as well. I mean, the guy must live under a rock. He don't even tell me a fighter that Mayweather Promotions, Leonard Ellerbe promotes.
I got nothing. Tell me a fighter that Leonard Ellerbe and Mayweather Promotion promotes. And that's Eddie. That's Eddie just dealing with it. He's like, I'm living rent-free in this guy's head. He's out there looking disheveled. He hasn't shaved in 6 months. He looks like Tom Hanks in Castaway. And he's just popping up, randomly just popping up, giving interviews when he doesn't promote anybody. He's got some sort of deal, like Eddie says, where they give him $5,000 to show up because Tank is still somehow contractually obligated to Leonard in some kind of way, but Leonard has no Nothing to do with anything that's going on. Nothing. And he has nothing. He has nobody. He has much pull in this sport as us sitting here, as the people in the chat. He's got no power. He's got nada. He's got nothing. He's trying to work his way back into Tank. You need me to carry your purse? You need me to carry that green purse, Tank? You need me to hold your trucker hat while you do this interview? He's got nothing. He has nothing, nada. He is just there. He is simply just there, and he's living rent-free. Eddie's living rent-free in Leonard's head. It's sad. It's sad to see a has-been, a guy who used to carry Mayweather's spit bucket, who parlayed that into whatever this is that he's been doing the past 10 years. I don't know. Whatever it is he's been doing. Does anybody know what Leonard actually does besides take a percentage of Tank's purses for doing nothing, for just being there, for being a figurehead who comes out every once in a while and does interviews because Leonard and Floyd are just there. Al's doing the work. But it's hilarious to see this. It's hilarious. I don't know if Raleigh's still with them. I'm not sure. Somehow they will say his comments are racist. Leonard talking like Tank's pay-per-view numbers wouldn't be a massive flop a few years ago, as if 150 to 250K are somehow impressive numbers while Canelo is doing 1 million. And these dudes just aren't, they're just not stars. And I'm going to highlight that in a minute because I'm going to piggyback that off of Steven's comments. Because these dudes just aren't stars. And I'm going to highlight that off of endorsements. They just don't make the money. And they're not out there getting the Saudis. The Saudis aren't even wanting to deal with these dudes. They're not even wanting to deal with these dudes. There's no demand. The Saudis are throwing around money, oil money like crazy to these heavyweights and to these other fighters. And these PBC fighters are nowhere in the picture. Tank, Coach Calvin, and Blue Blood Sports keep saying that Tank and Ryan both have to do the rehydration clause. Calix, do you think there's any truth to that? I'm not sure. And like I said, for me, I'm going to show up and watch the fight. I'm just not going to read too much into the rehydration because at the end of the day, he signed up for it. And at the end of the day, I think it's a better deal than he would have gotten elsewhere. He's getting more money. It's a more winnable fight still for him. So to me, it's a good move if that's what he had to do to get the fight. And I think that's what he had to do to get the fight, among other things. They were gonna shove poison pills down this dude's throat in order to get the fight. That's it. So this is another clip. Let's see which one I'm gonna play next. All right, this is let's play Ness's comment next. And I'm gonna get to Steven's last because Steven's the one I want to speak about the most because it really highlights what we talk about a lot on this channel about the war that goes on between managers, promoters, network execs, and just us as boxing fans, and why my war has become against more so the boxing fans who go along and cap for the manager, promoter, the power brokers, the network execs. That's the part that bothers me the most at this point. But this is Ness talking to a caller on his show yesterday. And this highlights another point that we talk about a lot on this channel. Listen to this.
This is an unopinionated question. Business-wise, how do you think a Tank and Devin fight will work? Because they got Tank bringing in most of the money at 135. But Devin got all the belts, so he is the A side.
Here we go. I'm not Al. I'm not Al. I ain't Keith Conley. I don't give a fuck about the business of Devin and Tank. I give a fuck about the fight. See, Tank fans calling in here want to talk business. Y'all want to talk A side, B side, who got the belts, who get the lion's share. I want to hear, let's fight. Let's fight. Fuck all that pussy shit. Y'all keep talking about Tank, this gangster. Let's fight. Fuck you talking about. You ain't even part of Tank team talking about A side, B side, C side shit. Man, talk to Danny, bruh. I don't want to talk. Y'all talking the wrong shit. Talk to me about let's fight.
I want to talk Tank Ryan.
Let's fight, man. Niggas over
The
here
fight
talking
4
about
days
A-side
away.
shit. Fuck is this weird
2
shit?
hours in,
How the
nobody talking
business
about
gonna
the
work?
fight.
You know they scared of Devin fucking Haney. How the business gonna work, Ness? Let's talk about the business. Fuck out of here. Ain't nobody talking business with Hector Garcia. Y'all ain't talking business with fucking Pedraza. Who the fuck is y'all talking business with? Soon as there's a motherfucking threat, we gotta talk business and splits and rehydrations and catch weights. Man, wake the fuck up.
That's beautiful. It's beautiful, and we need more energy like this from bigger channels. This is what we need, and this is what I've been calling for a decade, particularly the past 3 or 4 years, particularly since I started the channel back up a year and a half ago. More of this energy. Anytime somebody calls, well, what about the A side with the B side and the belts and the money and the blah, 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 blah. Shut up. Shut up. Listen to that nerd, the caller at the beginning. What are we going to do with the bed? And when Nessa's trying to tell him at the end, he finally hits the target. And it's what we've been talking about on this channel consistently and constantly. Old channel a decade ago, a new channel the past half a year is it only becomes a problem. And the power brokers, they brainwash you to believe the bigger the fight, the harder it is to make. Oh, we really have to figure out a way to fit this square peg into the circle hole. I just don't know. I don't know. You know, it's just, and then the belts, and then the B side, and then the A side, and then this guy's got the belts, but this guy's got the money and the pay-per-view splits. You know why we like Canelo so much? Because this never is the conversation. This is why we're frustrated with the whole Benavidez conversation, because it's easy. And you're trying to make mental gymnastics out of it. It's easy. You set the precedent that the A side dictates the terms and the B side takes it. But all of a sudden, when it comes to Canelo, it's changing when it comes to Benavidez. But the free agency, and he's shown that he's going to do it because he did it versus Plant, and he moved over there for the undisputed fight. No, it's easy. Canelo says it's over here, it's over there. And if Benavidez doesn't take the fight, he doesn't take the fight. Period. It's easy. It's simple. And that's why we like Canelo, because he simply just wheels and deals. He says he's going to unify a division within a year, and he does it. He says he's going to fight this guy, and he does it. It's simple. And that's why we like it so much, because it's less business, more fighting. Less business, more fighting. And crazy. Another crazy thought. It's crazy how the fighters who give us more fighting get more money. But this is Ness telling him at the end. He finally hits the target. He says, when it's Pedraza, when it's Raleigh, when it's Matteo Barrios, it's never a problem. It's a problem with you guys, with the Tank super fans who demand nothing of this guy when a Devin Haney's name comes up, when a Lomachenko's name comes up, when a Shakur Stevenson's name comes up. Then I don't know how we're going to fit these figures in. If he's such a star, and this is what I hear with Canelo, yeah, but Canelo, he can demand what he wants because he can generate so much money. Tank's the face of boxing, right? That's what you told me. Tank's the face of boxing. So he should be out there wheeling and dealing, dictating whatever terms he wants with whatever and whoever he wants to fight. If he's the face of boxing. And this is Ness telling the dude, it's not your job to worry about the A side, B side, C side. It's your job to dictate which fights need to happen and push the power brokers to make those fights happen. And when they come at you with the excuses, you call bullshit on it. That's it. That's your job. You show up, you purchase the pay-per-views, you watch the fights, you do your job as a boxing fan, and you hold their feet to the fire. That's your job. You shouldn't be worried about how Steven and Al are going to figure these things out. And Bob are going to figure these things out. You simply tell them to figure it out. And if they don't make those fights, you put pressure on them to make those fights. That's it. And that's just telling them. He's saying, you guys never worry about it when it's Pedraza and it's Hector Luis Garcia. But anytime there's a threat, anytime anybody puts pressure on Tank, anytime, poor Tank and his bump, they swaddle him up. You know, they put the bottle in his mouth, they burp him. Anytime Tank has any sort of threat around him, the excuses come out. The A side and the B side, you know, how are we going to do this? It's easy. You said he's the face of boxing. So if you're the face of boxing, it's easy to make the fights you want to make. It's easy. You just point. You just say, that's the guy I want to fight. You tell your manager, you tell your promoter, this is the guy I want to fight. They go over there, dictate the terms, and if you're the face of boxing, you get what you want. But for whatever reason, when it comes to Haney and Lomachenko and Shakur and Josh Taylor, remember the Leonard Ellerbe interview? It just popped up when they were asking him about Josh Taylor. And Leonard Ellerbe is just there. Just, you know, like I said, he's just there. I don't even know what he does. This was after the Matteo Barrios fight. And they're like, he's at 140 and he just fought a guy for a Reggie. So why not fight the real thing? Why not fight the undisputed champ? He doesn't bring anything to the table. What do you mean he doesn't bring anything to the table? He has everything. He's got all 5 belts. He's got the 4 belts. He's got the lineal Ring Magazine belt. What do you mean he doesn't bring anything to the table? Well, you know, Josh Taylor, you know, the numbers just don't, you know. Yeah, but what are the numbers from the previous fight? Well, they're my suitcase, and, you know, I just can't show anybody. Why can't you show anybody? Why? And these are the dudes that everybody holds up. The Stephen Espinozas, the Leonard Ellerbes, as these geniuses. Geniuses. Wizards of smart. And yet they're leading a mass exodus in boxing here in America, because they're running a stupid, backwards model. And people think they're doing it at the expense of the betterment of their fighter, but they're not managing these fighters properly. We're going to touch on that in a minute when we talk about Stephen Espinoza's interview. And I show this clip. But I couldn't get over, my head exploded when I saw that interview. They're asking Leonard, he's at 140 now, you know, he's got a Reggie. Why not fight the guy with all the belts? He doesn't bring anything to the table. What do you mean he doesn't bring anything to the table? He's literally the champion in the division. He sells better than Matteo Barrios. Matteo Barrios brought something to the table. Raleigh brought something to the table. Hector Luis Garcia brought something to the table. And these dudes out there, these robots, these zombies, they'll be on PBC, Twitter. They'll be in the LDBC and they'll co-sign this stuff. Yeah, it makes sense. No, ABC and the B side and the D side and the splits, you know, in the live gate. They come out here like macro and micro economists. These aren't boxing channels. But they're not even smart with the numbers. They're just co-signing what these dudes are saying. It's disgusting. It's Stockholm Syndrome. It's Stockholm Syndrome. It's exactly what it is. They've been held hostage. They've been held hostage. And now they're going to cap for the hostage takers. FPBC, Al Heyman, Floyd. I like boxing historians' energy. He just goes straight after it. There's no filter. You just go straight. Ness was literally telling his own callers to kick rocks. And this is the thing. This is the beautiful part about this is a lot of us have been highlighting this stuff for a while now. But I like when Ness does it because it's impossible. Like, it's hard for them to call him Hitler. It's hard to call Ness Hitler or David Duke. So they can't shut down that conversation with the trigger words and the talking points. So they're just going to shut down conversations because they can't compete in the arena of ideas. So I like Ness on days like that because Ness is just going to shut it down. He just doesn't have time for it. He just wants to talk about fights on certain days instead of the numbers. And he doesn't have time for a caller calling in. What are we going to do with the A side? How are we going to make this fight? It's not your job. Just demand the fight. Demand the fight. This is the weasel right here. Let me get into the weasel. This is hilarious right here. All right, this is the interview I really wanted to highlight. And just look at him. Just look at this dude with this 5 o'clock shadow, just looking like a weasel. Just cannot stand this, man. Like, and I don't hate anybody, man. I don't have hate in my heart. But as a boxing fan in this arena right here, it's just tough to deal with dudes like this. Because people hold these dudes up in high esteem, and they, they sit there with their, their pinky up in the air, their nose up in the air. They have a lot to say about a lot of things, and then they'll just drop stuff like this, and it's disgusting. So this is the Steven Espinoza.
I feel like we as a boxing industry, we're sort of where the music industry was in the early 2000s, and people were saying the music industry was dead. Now, people are not saying that about, boxing, clearly, but the challenges are the same, because at that point, the piracy technology had gotten way ahead of the anti-piracy technology, and it was really killing the business. And they eventually figured it out. For them, the solution was streaming and a different business model, and now, everything's good for them. So I think we're at a point where we need the technology to catch up. I think it will, but you're absolutely right. I mean, I think it is absolutely preventing some of the big fights from happening. I think Spence Crawford, there's no secret, that's part of the issues, is trying to predict how big a fight it is and what each fighter deserves to make. It's much harder when you're losing 30 or 40% of piracy. So, look, I think part of it is we've all got to turn to each other as boxing fans, and let people know, look, the reality is you can't, on one hand, complain about not having big fights.
Listen to what he just said. Let me go back a little bit. Listen to the smugness of this, how he starts it off.
So, look, I think part of it is we've all got to turn to each other as boxing fans.
Shut up.
And let people know, look, the reality is you can't, on one hand, complain about not having big fights and not seeing these fights happen. And then when one does happen, you stream it. Because those are two are directly connected. And the other thing is, I think people, and this is one of the excuses they use in the music industry, it's like, oh, I'm just stealing from the record label. We all know that, the artist doesn't get paid anyway. That's not the case in boxing. Right now, like I don't get rich. Showtime doesn't get rich. Distributors don't get rich. We're making, 5-7% of the money. The fighters are making 80% of the money. So really, when people are streaming, they're taking money directly out of the pockets of the fighters. So it's a $70 pay-per-view. That's $50, $60 that's coming out of the fighters' pockets. So I don't know how you can claim to be a boxing fan and be regularly streaming big fights, because you are not supporting the sport and you're not supporting the fighters.
Listen to how he starts off that little run he has at the end. He says, we need to turn to each other. We need to work together. We need to sing Kumbaya, hold hands. We are the world. And just look at each other and talk to each other and say, you know what? We need to end this. We need to end this. We need to give up the fire sticks. We need to turn them in. We need to chop them up. We need to turn them in. We need to look at each other deep inside in our hearts as boxing fans and come together and say, we need to stop this. We are stealing from the fighters. If anybody steals from the fighters, by the way, it's the power brokers. But we need to stop this. And listen to Steven. He's like, I barely make any money. I'm not the one making. Of course not, Steven. Of course not. Of course not. We need to stop stealing from the fighters. We need to stop doing this. We need to stop doing that. He brings up the music industry. He cites the music industry. Okay, so the music industry in the early 2000s, for some of the young cats out there who will be watching this, they had a huge issue with piracy. Napster, people, burning CDs for free, right? And you saw like a split in the music industry at that time between artists, because a lot of artists started to complain about it, like Steven's doing right now. We just can't, we just can't make money and make ends meet with this stuff. You saw your Metallica, your Dr. Dre's out there saying, you're taking food out of my kids' stomachs. This is how I feed my family. And fair enough. I'm not going to blame. I'm not passing judgment on anybody in any of this. You have a hack fire stick, that's fine. Go for it, whatever. If you complain about it, whatever. But what Steven is suggesting right here is actually the opposite of the way the music industry went. The model that he helped create as a boxing power broker is actually the opposite of the model that music came up with to combat the problem of piracy. The opposite. Musicians, artists realize we need to make ourselves more accessible first, before we even fix this problem. Other people are fixing this problem. We just simply need to make ourselves accessible and continue to make our music. Why? Because we know going forward, music getting bigger, getting more global, that we have more marketing opportunities, more endorsement opportunities. So music isn't the end goal. Music is the vehicle to get our foot in the door to open the market up. Jay-Z had a famous line on the Blueprint album. He says, the difference between me and them, I smartened up, opened the market up. And what Jay-Z is telling other rappers in this song is, I drop an album every year. I'm putting in the work. And while I put in the work, I'm getting endorsement deals every single album. So it doesn't matter if the album sales become stagnant. It doesn't matter that the Blueprint 2 sold less than the Blueprint. It doesn't matter that the Black album sells less than that. It doesn't matter. I'm getting more on the endorsement end. On the back end, the music is my vehicle into the door. Jay-Z, 50 Cent said the same thing for the hip hop heads out there. They'll remember this. He says 12 million albums or whatever goes diamond on Get Rich or Die Trying, even with people pirating his music, because people had FOMO and they still wanted access to him. They still wanted the actual copy. All right, but what did he do? They're asking him, are you worried? Are you worried about being too accessible? Are you worried that your aura is going to go away, being that you're more accessible now? And he says, no. I left the block, but I didn't leave the block mentality. As long as people are buying, I'm on the corner selling. And he said, I'm not attached to the music. I'm not married to it. This is my vehicle in the door. So what did 50 Cent realize? He could sell clothing. He could sell cologne. He could sell alcohol. He can sell vitamin water, which sells for $4 billion. And he makes 10% off of that. Gets 10% of that sale. He's not worried about what the music is. They're asking him. And I have the videos. I can bring these up in future podcasts. He's saying, I'm not worried about them pirating. I'm not worried about it. Let them pirate. Let them pirate. Because the end goal wasn't selling the album. The end goal was having as many people as possible exposed to the album, whether it was free or whether they paid $15 for it. Why? Because whether it was free or $15, they still had access to him. They still got familiar with him and who he was, and they're more ready to buy from him in other arenas in which it's easier to buy, in which they have to buy. You can't bootleg cologne. I mean, I'm sure you can, but and the other part of this is, what did music do? Music became cheaper. It's cheaper to buy music than it was 20, 30 years ago. After taxes, you pay close to $20 for a CD. You go and pay for singles. Remember that? Cassette tape singles? Now you can buy the streaming for less than half of that. This whole streaming album. They're selling on streaming. Music fixed that, but they made it more accessible. They made it cheaper. It's cheaper. The artists are now more accessible, and the artists realize more than ever there are few musicians out there selling albums like that, like musicians sold 20 years ago, 30 years ago. Got like Taylor Swift, Beyonce, whoever. But Taylor Swift's making her real money off of touring, concerts, merchandise, and all of the 20 million endorsement deals she has. Same with these we make fun of the mumble rappers, but these dudes are making a song a week, and they're doing 40 to 50 million views per song. So people are being exposed to these guys, and they're not worried about selling an album. These mumble rappers are not selling albums. They're selling singles on YouTube. They're selling singles on Spotify. And then people get used to them, and what happens? They're buying from them in other arenas. They can go on tour off of these singles. They can sell cologne. They can sell liquor. They can sell whatever the hell they want, and they're selling it. But they're getting endorsement deal after endorsement deal. Why? Because they became more accessible. What has boxing done that's the opposite? And this is the reason I really cannot stand the guys like Steven Espinoza, the Leonard Ellerbes, the Floyd Mayweathers, the Bob Arams, the Trust Fund Eddies when they bring this stuff up. Particularly Steven, because this dude is so smug. And he acts like he's above everybody. But this dude is not good at his job. And he's become a press secretary for Al Heyman. That's his job. That's his main title now. Tank Davis has one endorsement deal. One. And he's the face of boxing, right? He's got one endorsement deal. We really only have 3 fighters in the sport with real endorsement deals. Now, I'm not talking about baby deals like Tank Davis has or Teofimo Lopez. I'm talking about real deals, generating real money. I'm going to get to those comments in a minute, by the way. So let me finish these thoughts before I lose my train of thought. And also hit that like button if y'all do one thing. Bang that like button. But Tank Davis has an Under Armour deal. It's one deal. It's one deal. The deal is apparently worth about $700,000. After he pays his management and he lives in Baltimore. After he pays state and local taxes on top of federal tax, he might get like $200,000 out of that. It's a baby deal. So you say to yourself, if this guy's the face of boxing, and by the way, the 3 people who really make money off endorsements, Anthony Joshua makes upwards of $11 million per year. Canelo Alvarez obviously making a bunch of money off endorsements. And believe it or not, Gennady Golovkin. And if Gennady Golovkin is making endorsement deals, nobody has an excuse. You can blame whatever surface issues you want. Gennady Golovkin came over here speaking broken English, not even from the country, from a country that nobody had even heard of. Borat was from. Speaking broken English, saying Mexican style, fighting 3 times per year against the best opposition available to him because people were ducking him. And he somehow leveraged that just by fighting the best fights available to him and be looking like a nice guy. The dude leveraged that into Jordan Brand, among other things. And he became a guy last year who was the one of 2 fighters in the sport who fought in 2 super fights. He made like close to $50 million. Fighting Murata in a super fight in Japan and Canelo Alvarez here in America. Huge live gate. And on top of that, he's making over $3 million per year, not even fighting. He's leveraged that stuff into endorsement deals. And my point is, this is the only sport, the only genre in which dudes are top fighters and they're not making endorsement deals. So you have to ask yourself why. Why is that? It's happened in the past. It's happened in the past. Those guys had endorsement deals. The Oscars, the Roys, the Ray Leonards, the Marvin Haglers, they all had huge endorsement deals. They were making money not getting hit in the face. George Foreman, the biggest, making huge money not getting hit in the face. These fighters today aren't doing that. And you have to ask yourself, why is that? Whose fault is that? And my issue with Espinoza and Al Heyman in particular is they're trying to offload the blame. They're trying to offload their mistakes at an inflated price on the consumer. They're not even pushing the money on us. They're not even pushing these pay-per-views on us because they made mistakes with the free boxing for all campaign by offering these fighters high minimums. It's not even that. They're trying to offload the blame on us. I don't care how many people pirate the fights. You're not doing your job. You're doing a terrible job, and you're the main reason that we're in the issue. We're in the predicament we're in boxing in America. It's you. It's the weasel. You're one of the reasons. It's the power brokers. It's not the boxing fans. It's not us. You're not going to put that on us. It's not happening. It's you. It's you. I wanted to get on here this week and just talk about the fight. It ain't going to happen because I see stuff like this. We need to sit here as boxing fans and just, have a heart-to-heart and hold hands and sing Kumbaya and talk about, we should have higher morals as boxers. That's what he's saying. We should have higher morals as boxing fans. We're cheating these fighters. No. It's the power brokers who have been cheating the fighters. Not only have you been stealing money from the fighters, but you've been mismanaging their careers. Make them more accessible, and they'll make more money by not getting hit in the face. There's no reason. Look, there's two reasons that Tank Davis does not have deals, marketing deals. He doesn't have marketing deals. And people have the nerve to call this dude the face of boxing, or close to it. But the reason he doesn't have marketing deals is two reasons. One, they haven't made him accessible to the market. They're sticking him on these small AAA minor league pay-per-views and trying to push him off his championship fights. They've been trying to scam the market, selling us snake oil, and we're not buying it. They're not making him accessible. They're making this a country club sport as a macro. That's on the macro level. They made this a less accessible country club sport, and it's the reason why we're the only sport in which our top athletes, other than 3, aren't getting big endorsement deals. But Tank in particular on the micro level isn't a star, one, because of that, because he's not in meaningful big fights against other big names, number one. And number two, the dude can't keep his hands off of women. You ever ask yourself why Tank hasn't been canceled? You ever ask yourself that question? It really highlights to where we are in boxing, how small we are, how insignificant we are as boxing. I hate to be pessimistic, but I need to highlight this point. Like I said, tomorrow and Saturday will be more optimistic. But when it comes to Tank, he hasn't been canceled. And he has multiple infractions of abuse to women. Multiple. And he just pled guilty. This isn't making accusations. He pled guilty to a hit and run of 4 people, including a pregnant woman who he watched. He watched in there, distraught, and ran away. So you ask yourself, why hasn't he been canceled in today's day and age? It's because people simply don't know him, so they simply don't care. That dude who was just in Creed 3, the guy who played the antagonist or what, I haven't seen it, but I haven't seen Creed 2 yet. But the dude that played the antagonist, he's being canceled for abuse to women. Why? Because people know him. People simply do not know Tank. You have the nerve to call him the face of boxing, but people don't know him enough to even cancel him for abuse to women. Decades, WWE was one of the biggest and most consistent pay-per-view distributors. They got out of pay-per-view business years ago for streaming. WrestleMania cost me $5. Smartened up, opened the market up. Widened it. They widened it. They had a blueprint, a consistent blueprint as to, this is our values as an organization. Same with UFC. This is our values. And they sell pay-per-views every month. But the thing is, they stack the pay-per-views and also they widen their market so much to where dudes can just simply share the pay-per-views. And Dana will get out there and complain about piracy, but he's still just moving along. He's moving along. I appreciate the super chat too, Nando, but he's moving along. There were musicians, artists, rappers who could not adapt to the market in late 90s, early 2000s, and they got swallowed. They just sat there and complained, I wish this wouldn't be so, and we just don't know what to do, and they just sat there and they got swallowed. Then you had the artists that I talk about. It's like I watched the 50 Cent interview. I still go back and watch him because it's genius how he pivoted. It's genius how he was like Floyd in the rap industry. He just polarized the market and then he just opened it up. Unlike Floyd, he got a lot of endorsement deals. He used the music as a vehicle to get in the door. And then once he got in the door, everything exploded for him. He went in many different avenues. But I saw the interviews back then. I still watch him. He said, I'm not married to the music. I'm not. I don't get emotional over the music. If I'm doing a song, if I'm recording a track in the studio and I see that other people aren't vibing to it, I just scrap it. I'm not married to it. And it helps me because I can just simply put out a bunch of music. I don't worry about oversaturating the market. I just saturate the market. They buy it if they buy it. If they don't, they don't. But I'm exposing everybody to myself, who I am, and then I'm going to sign a vitamin water deal. I'm going to sign a clothing brand deal. I'm going to sign a liquor deal. And he just signs deals, and he doesn't need the music at a certain point. And that's how you create generational wealth, and that's how you become wealthy, and how you help out your family is earned income, and you turn earned income into passive income. You shouldn't be spending the money that you're making to get hit in the face. You shouldn't be spending that money. The money that you make getting hit in the face, you turn that into passive income, and you spend the passive income that you make. Why? Because there's going to come a certain point to where you can't get hit in the face anymore. You can't. It's sad. Like who is it? Somebody's fighting bare knuckle boxing. Oh, it's Mike Alvarado. Mike Alvarado's fighting bare knuckle boxing April 29th, next weekend. And you see that, and you're like, it's sad. It's sad. And it's mismanagement. You got to get to these guys, and you got to explain to them, this is what we're going to do. You're worried about the high minimum, and this is where we're at. The fighters are worried about the high minimums. They're locking these fighters into their deals, and they're taking away their NIL. Hell, the girl who plays for LSU basketball, she just won a national championship. She's projected to make over $2 million next year in NIL deals. Not even playing basketball. $2 million. She's a female college basketball player. She's an amateur athlete. And Tank Davis is making $500,000 in endorsement deals as the face of boxing. It's embarrassing. And you have the nerve to tell me that the Steven Espinozas of the world are genius. How are they not getting their fighters money for not being punched in the face? What are they doing? You have female college basketball players making upwards of $2 million per year now in endorsement deals. and boxers. Top 10 boxers in the sport aren't making 7 figures in endorsements. It's sad. This is where we are. It's so small, and it's because of people like Steven Espinoza. And that's why it bothers me. People ask me why it bothers me, because he gets out there and virtue signals so much. Oh, we need to do this for the fighters. We need to do that for the fighters. And, it's just not right. We need to stop robbing these guys and their families. Why don't you stop robbing them? Why don't you manage them properly? Because that's what you are at this point. Not a network exec. You're a press secretary for an advisor. That's what you are. That's your title. You're part of the PBC by extension. So why don't you do more to make sure that your fighters are set up by making passive income? And in order to do that, you get them exposed to the market more by fighting more. Instead, you're putting them on the shelf because your network is trash. It's awful. Minor league. I didn't want to yell that into the microphone. He's terrible. Trash. He's awful. He's a weasel. Needs to shave the 5 o'clock shadow. But it irks me. It irks me because he's the one out there virtue signaling, saying, we need to do more for the fighters. We need to stop stealing for the fight. We need to look into each other's hearts and hold each other's hands and sing We Are the World and Kumbaya and just look into each other's eyes and say, we need to burn these fire sticks. We need to stop robbing from these fighters. We need to stop doing this to these fighters. If anybody needs to look deep into their hearts about robbing fighters blind, I'll tell you what, it's that inner circle right there, which Steven Espinoza is part of. You're having fighters fight once per year because your network budget sucks, because your advisor that you're the press secretary for sucks. He burnt through $1 billion in investment money in a short amount of period of time. He burnt bridges with HBO. He burnt bridges with Fox. He burnt bridges with NBC. They're no longer on CBS. And guess what? Showtime at this point has become a pay-per-view outfit. This dude is up here like talking like he's got so much wisdom. And he created a model in which he went the opposite direction of the model that he cited that got out of that problem. Their solution to people pirating pay-per-views is what? To create a model in which we have more pay-per-views. And look, I'm sure they'll screenshot this stuff. I'm sure they'll do it on PBC Twitter. Look at this guy. And then Steven Espinoza with his 37 burner accounts because he has them. I'm telling you, I've seen it. Steven Espinoza has his burner accounts. Al Heyman, although he doesn't talk, he has his burner accounts on Twitter. Look at these guys. This is all wrong for boxing. This is the boxing fans can't have. I can't believe this. I can't believe this. That's what he does. He's a joke. He's a fraud. Look at what he's created of American boxing. Look at what they've done to American boxing. This is the first time in boxing history we don't have an American star. And then they're going to point the finger at boxing fans. It ain't going to happen. It ain't going to happen. The smugness of this guy. We need to look into. I really hate doing it. I hate subjecting people to it, but I need to play this again because it's a teachable moment. It's a teachable moment. Listen to this.
I feel like we as a boxing industry, we're sort of where the music industry was in the early 2000s, and people were saying the music industry was dead. Now, people are not saying that about, boxing, clearly, but the challenges are the same, because at that point, the piracy technology had gotten way ahead of the anti-piracy technology, and it was really killing the business. And they eventually figured it out. For them, the solution was streaming and a different business model, and now, everything's good for them. So I think we're at a point where we need the technology to catch up. I think it will, but you're absolutely right. I mean, I think it is absolutely preventing some of the big fights from happening. I think Spence Crawford, there's no secret, that's part of the issues is trying to predict how big a fight it is and what each fighter deserves to make is much harder when you're losing 30 or 40% of piracy. So, look, I think part of it is we've all got to turn to each other as boxing fans.
Listen to this part again real quick. Listen to what he's saying.
Predict how big a fight it is and what each fighter deserves to make is much harder when you're losing 30 or 40% of piracy.
His job is so hard. It's so hard because of boxing fans. It's so hard because, and by the way, when I complain about the pay-per-views on Twitter, it's the PBC fans that come after me. It's them. Oh, look at Broke Boy with this Broke Boy claim. Look at Broke Boy. Just say you can't afford the pay-per-view. Just say you can't. They are not supporting their favorite fighters because they are pirating the fights. I know that. I know that because they complain about me complaining about the pay-per-views.
So, look, I think part of it is we've all got to turn to each other as boxing fans, and let people know, look, the reality is you can't, on one hand, complain about not having big fights and, not seeing these fights happen. And then when one does happen, you stream it because those are two are directly connected. And the other thing is, I think people, and this is one of the excuses they use in the music industry. It's like, oh, I'm just stealing from the record label. We all know that, the artist doesn't get paid anyway. That's not the case in boxing. Right now, like I don't get rich. Showtime doesn't get rich. The strippers don't get rich. We're making,
for him
5-7% of the money.
Oh, poor
the fighters are making 80% of the money. So really, when people are streaming, they're taking money directly out of the
Push back on this.
So
who is interviewing him?
$70 pay-per-view, that's $50-$60 that's coming out of the fighters' pockets. So I don't know how you can claim to be a boxing fan and be regularly streaming big fights because you are not supporting the sport and you're not supporting the fighters.
I don't know how you can claim to be a network exec when you aren't putting on good fights. You are not supporting the fighters and you're not supporting the fights. You are not supporting boxing. I'll push it back on them. How do you claim to be a network exec when your network sucks? You're trash. The fights that you do put on that are non-pay-per-view do 100,000 viewership. 100,000 people watch it. And the pay-per-views that you do put out, we don't even have transparency on it because you're going to lie or not expose us to how many you sold. We don't know what Plant Benavidez did at the live gate. Go try to find out that information. They never, not even boxing scene, right? State-run media. They're not even saying how much Plant Benavidez did as far as pay-per-view. So that tells you right there that that fight went double wood. Trash network. Trash. They've run it into the ground with this guy at the head, with this guy running it. And by extension, they're going to burn another bridge with another network. It's trash. Complete trash. This dude's a weasel and he's trash. He's awful. And if he would just sit there and just not say anything or just come out and give, just some small statements, but he's going to come out here and blame boxing fans for the problem, the mess that he created. He created that. Showtime is trash. Awful. It's trash. It's awful. Low budget stuff. Low budget stuff. And he's a low budget network exec. He's trash. Awful. I saw that and my head almost exploded. I can't believe it. Do a better job at network execing. How about that? How about you look deep into your heart and do a better job at being a network exec? More positivity coming tomorrow and Saturday and Sunday as well. We're going to be deep diving into these fights, talking a lot about these fights. I am done for the day. Appreciate y'all swinging through. God bless.